Hi, it's Sandy Parker and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to make a card with a scene and we're going to watercolor it with markers. I hope you'll stay tuned. So I started out with a stamp set called Way to Goat, and I stamped these 3 goats. Then that was from Stampin' Up! If I didn't mention that. Then I'm going to use this Hero Arts set from the July of 18 kit called County Fair. I'm going to use the fence, and I'm using half of this stamp. It looks like a farm, half of it, and half of it looks like a fair. I only want the farm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Post-it note and I'm going to lay it, hopefully, in the area. I'm going to try and fake this right off the bat and see how close I get. That wasn't too bad. It's about a bit more that way. Let's see how I did that time. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I just went from the woods basically to the silo, and then I'm going to stamp that with some Gina Amalgam black ink, and I'm going to also, I think I'm going to heat emboss it with some clear embossing powder, because I did that with the goats. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't decide. I want it to look more like it's just in the distance. So maybe if it was just like a, black image, but not as pronounced as the goats. I think I'm going to go with that. We're going with it. I'd let you vote, but the voting booth is closed. Shut that off. And then the rest of the way over, I'm going to put the fence. Then, although I don't have, I didn't do that perfectly, this, it was a merry-go-round, I think, looks a lot like the fence, so I'm not really super concerned about if it doesn't match up perfectly. So I'm just going to put my fence in. I have a couple trees that I'm going to stamp in here from a rubber stamp tapestry. I think it's called Country Lane. I'm making that up too. See how that just kind of disappears? You can't see that boo-boo where I have a little bit of a merry-go-round right there. It's too far in the background. People will never guess what that is, right? So then let me get my trees, and I think what I'm going to do, I have a tree it looks like this, that I could ink in the top in green and the bottom in brown. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I haven't decided. And then I have a couple of pine trees that are smaller, and I'm going to put them kind of over like that. I want to make sure that my trees have some, the scale is right, but I didn't want to put too much color on them, because I want it to be more like it's sunset when I'm doing this. You know what I mean? So the background, like the foreground with the goats, is going to be colored, but the background is going to be more like it's in the shadows of the sunset, far away. And it doesn't matter to me that the fence is behind that tree, because the tree really has enough trunk there that I don't think it's going to make a big deal. So those are our trees. And then what I'm going to do, I have in the goat stamp set, there's dirt that you can stamp, but when I stamped it before, I did already try this and failed at it once because I had trouble with my coloring, but the dirt just, I don't know, it just didn't look right. I think it'll be better if I just put in the images or the coloring and then color in some kind of dirt image. That was, I lied, that was from Rubber Stamp Tapestry, and it's called Woodland Harvest. Made that up. I don't know what I said it was, but I know that wasn't what I said it was. I wanted to color with some markers, and the markers I'm going to use are a variety. They're watercolor markers, so they're not going to be a permanent marker. And I'm using some Stampin' Up and some Stabilo. So those are the markers I'm going to be using. And I went to a garage sale and I found this little chicken, and this little chicken made me really happy for mixing. I have trouble mixing colors because when I mix my colors, it seems like I mix like this much space. So I figured if I had these little eggs, it would kind of control me so that I only had one little spot for mixing. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scribble some light gray of this Stabilo marker. Hopefully it's in the frame. And then I'm going to scribble the next darker gray beside it. And then I'm going to scribble in the next egg. I'm going to scribble a darker gray. And then beside it, the darkest gray. This is so my goats are different colors. I don't want all my goats to be the same color gray. And then I'm going to put a little bit more of this darkest gray up here. And a little bit right in there, so in case I decide I want some in there. Okay, I'm going to wet my brush. This is watercolor paper that I'm working on. I cut it to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And the first thing I want to do is color some goats. Okay. And I want to make a couple of my goats girls and one of them boy. So this one, there's some stuff on my brush. This one is going to be a girl goat. And then the one in the middle is going to be my manly man goat. I'm also going to give the girl goats a little bit of blusher, because why not? And I'm going to give them a little bit of darker ears, because I don't think goats are all the same color. And I'm going to give them, I'm going to give this a dark, even darker. I'm going to give this a dark, like, eyeshadow look, because it is a female goat. Why not have a pretty, you know, she should have some pretty eyelids, right? Then I'm going to get my red, and I'm just going to scribble a little dot of it so that we can give her a little bit of blusher right there. And then I'm going to paint her horns with this. It's like a burnt sienna, umber, I don't know. Burnt something. That's what it looks like. I don't know what I don't actually know what the color is. And with her horns, and then I might as well use the same horn color on her, because she is also a girl in Sandy's goat world. And then Mr. Goat, I'll put a little bit on him. Next up, I'm going to put a little bit of red on her flower. I'm going to put a little bit more red than that in certain spots. Now I could make this white up here because I'm making her have that tuft of hair to be white, but maybe I'll do something with a gel pen later, but for now we're just going with it. Now our big man in the middle, we want him to be the darker of the three. I don't know why, I'm just thinking he'll be darker. The brushes I'm using are from a company called Grace Art, and I got them on Amazon. They were recommended by a bunch of YouTubers and that do watercoloring, and I tried them and I really like them. It's a big set and they're $8. You can't beat that. I think I'm going to make his tail dark. Why not, right? So that's our boy in the middle. Okay, then let's go on to our other girl. think I need some lighter tones for her. Okay, I'm happy with my goats. So now we're gonna do our grass. And I practiced this before with these Stampin' Up pens. They're really nice for these little like tufts of grass because it's so fine. So you can put little pieces of grass all over the place, and it looks pretty realistic, comparatively speaking. And then to do the actual green, it's a lot easier to basically just put, well, what I did before is I just kind of did this, and then I wet it, and the water made this, since this marker is kind of dry, the water took care of itself, or took care of the blending for me. It was a lot easier than picking it up from the palette, let me tell you. We're just going to get our brush, and gives you a nice light green background, which is what I wanted. I didn't want something that was really over the top. I just wanted something that was light. It was, you know, just a lighter green. That, and then it also makes your grass that the little grass tufts, it kind of blends them out, and you can see them, but they're not as vibrant as they were before. When I did this the first time, this is where I really struggled, because I was going to the palette, and I just kept going back to the palette and back to the palette, and it was just driving me crazy because it was taking me forever to do that. Paint my paintbrush a little bit so I have a little bit more green, and then add some water to it. So these areas that I didn't have any green or didn't have enough green in. Let's do the sky, and then I think we might add a little bit to the trees or not. I haven't decided about that yet, but first let's do a little bit of sky. I want it to look like it's kind of fading out into the, like it's darker at the bottom. That's my plan anyway, darker at the bottom. And I like how when you dissolve those markers that they kind of look like clouds a little bit. And so then I'm going to just take a cloth and just pounce a couple places to make it look more like clouds. And I'm going to do a little bit darker. So here's my plan. I'm going to, first I gotta put my way to goat back. Almost lost that bugger. Okay, first things first, I want to put this on a panel My card is going to be an A2 size card, which means it's 8.5 inches tall by 5.5 inches wide, scored at 4.25. So it's 4.25 by 5.5 inches on the front. Then this panel I cut to about a 1/4 of an inch smaller. It would be nice if I could just get it to come out faster. And then I'm just going to lay this piece onto it and then move it around a little bit because I want it to back it, but I also want it to be just a little bit bigger. So I think this is not a 1/4 of an inch bigger. I think it's an 1/8 of an inch bigger. Could be a lie. Then, to put my sentiment on it, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it look like you won first prize at the fair. You know what I mean? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise it up on dimensionals, like foam squares. And then I'm going to put these little, I cut out a couple of feet. I don't know what you call them. We'll call them feet, but that's not what they are. I want it to look like a prize. So hold on, I gotta get one more of these little buggers. So here's what I was thinking. I was thinking I would just put it like that. See how that kind of looks like it's somebody won a prize at the fair. And then I'm going to put that up on another layer of dimension like that, because I want it to really stand out. That I want to put the whole thing up on foam tape because I can. And this foam tape I got at the Dollar Tree, and you get a pretty decent size roll. It's not very thick, you know, it's not like you're not getting huge dimension with this, but I don't think that you'd be charged extra postage with it either. And then that, you know, like the other kinds that you get, I think sometimes that's a big problem with them. The other ones is that you end up having to pay more postage. And there we have it. It's a card about a little girl who's selling her goat at the 4-H at the fair. I hope you enjoyed this, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and please tell your friends about me on social media because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.